Thank you to everybody for joining us today. I am accompanied by my boss, so please give me good reviews on this. Thanks
This
so much.
just got awkward, Sam.
It just got really awkward. Thanks so much for Justin Stutz, VP of Strategic Growth for West WFG Company, for joining me today. Justin has been doing this for a long time and helping businesses, even before the title space, grow and streamline and adapt to today's world for many years. So I'm really excited to have him here with us today. And I can't take any credit for the title or the basic content of this class. This was all Justin Stutz. So thanks for letting me be a part of it, man.
Well, I don't like you positioning like that, because then if people don't like it, it's my fault instead of yours. But regardless, it's nice to be here, man. I'm happy to join, and thanks for the invite. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. So for those of you that have been out from under a rock for the last year and a half, you know that the market has just been absolutely insane. It is hard to find enough time in the day to close the business that you have, let alone continue to build that pipeline and grow for the future. But that doesn't make those things any less important. So today we're going to be talking about how to boost your business without ever leaving the office, because right now, previously you really couldn't leave the office, but now you're probably so inundated and slammed that it's hard to get out from behind that desk. So I think this content is going to be super valuable. We're excited to spend a little bit of time with you today. And again, drop any questions in the chat, in the Q&A. We will definitely get to them. So we're going to start by talking a little bit about getting social. You want me to take this one?
Yeah, you started off, and I can add some color commentary.
Awesome. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something very briefly, but Instagram stories. Instagram stories are, next to some TikTok content, depending which publications you nerd out on, like me, Instagram stories are some of the most engaging possible ways to communicate with your followers, with your associates, with your clients and customers in social media in today's world. So if you're not using them, you should absolutely be using them. When you log into Instagram, it's those funny little circles up at the top. Yours is the one on the far left with a plus sign. Click it and nothing bad will happen, I promise. They're quick, they're easy, they're everywhere. And what people really like to see when it comes to things like stories is behind the scenes, right? Social media is called social for a reason. It's meant to be social. It's meant to be anti-institutional. It's not supposed to be buttoned up and perfect. It's supposed to be relatable. So the things that are going on in your office behind the scenes, one of the things I used to share in Instagram stories was, at my former agency in West Texas and in Southern New Mexico, we had a really, really old title plant. So we had plats and cards. For those of you that remember the card days, we still had a bunch of cards going back to the 1880s, 1870s, things like that. People don't realize the amount of work that a title company does behind the scenes to get them to the finish line. So sharing things like that behind the scenes, office birthdays, all that kind of stuff was super relatable, humanized us, and also was anti-institution. So be using stories. If you're doing ads, you can actually run ads for stories now. So you can pop up on people's phones. That's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, nothing bad will happen. No one will die on the other end of your phone. If something gets messed up, you can easily delete a story. So don't be afraid of them. Use them, engage, and you will see people engage right back with you. So that's the first stop on our journey, talking about getting social a little bit. The second thing,
and Sam, can I interject a little bit here?
Please do.
So look, we've been talking about social media what feels like 2 decades now, right? I know it's not that old, but it feels like it.
Feels like it.
And I get it. It can be annoying when you're busy. It feels like a chore, and all of those things are absolutely true. And believe me, if my part of my job didn't depend on having to be on these platforms, I would probably opt out, to be honest. But here's the thing, and especially in where we're sitting at today in 2021, the days of the pop buys of the offices and all of that stuff are over, right? I mean, even not even talking about the pandemic-y stuff, the likelihood that you show up to a brokerage in 2021 and it's full of agents is over. So how are you going to stay in top of mind with the people that you want to be in business with? And, for all of the faults that social has, and there are many, that is one of the best things that we have access to, is the ability to scale contact. And so by using things like stories, by posting content, by responding to other people's content, which I know we'll get into here in a minute, you're being visible. It is the modern day equivalent of the pop buy to a broker. And so, if you've been hesitant to do this kind of stuff in the past, believe me, I get it. I'm the same way, but I cannot deny the amount of stories that I have from sales, escrow, and otherwise, that when they just take these little tips that we're going to share today, it works. I have folders full of stories about how this stuff works. So it's a bit of a leap of faith, especially if you've never tried it before. But I promise you, I mean, in 10 minutes a day, you can build your business doing these things.
And I think one of the ways, I'm glad you said that. I think one of the ways that I've been able to convince people of this is, I think back to the times I hopped in my car and I did my own pop buys as a biz dev guy for a title company, and the amount of time that took and the amount of money, and frankly, here in El Paso, the amount of sweat, literally. And so to be able to visit 20, 30 people in a day, it's not going to happen physically. To be able to visit 20, 30, 50, 100 people in a day virtually via video, via social is absolutely doable. So it becomes one of those things of, does it replace the in-person? Absolutely not. But can it fill the in-between? Can it keep you present on a day-to-day basis? The number one thing we're trying to do is stay front of mind in a positive way. And so it can absolutely fill those gaps and do it with a lot less gas, a lot less sweat in the El Paso summers, and frankly, a lot less time. So
yeah, I mean, it's about being present in the moments that matter, right? Because I mean, look, people don't think about us until the moment that they need us. And so how do we get in front of them in those moments where they need us, and then we're there and present? And so, like you said, it's filling in the gaps, so that when there's a need, our name, our face, our content, whatever you want to call it, is in front of those people in those moments that matter.
That's a perfect lead in to the second piece about groups, if you want to chat on this just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I love groups. I think it's really underutilized. I've been preaching about joining or creating groups for a number of years. And the reason I like groups is that it creates community. And you can talk, Sam, you've got a great group, the Title Nerds, where people are watching this right now. I mean, you've got almost 800 people as a part of that community who collaborate, who share, and learn together. And that's the point of groups. And so if you go out and search for groups in your local area, find local realtor associations or networking groups or whatever, even hobby type things. The point is to find your tribe. And so whether you want to create a group of your own and bring in subject matter experts to solve problems or address customer issues, any of that stuff, I think that's great. Or if you go out and join groups that are, service matter experts that you can participate in the conversation, that's great too. The point of groups is that there's no advertising. It's only the people that are invited. You have some control over who's in the group. And then when people post, everybody is notified, right? It shows up on your phone that so-and-so just posted to the group. And so it's very social in that way. And so if you take, 5-10 minutes and go out and search groups on your Facebook page, it's really easy to find it and join those things. If you don't see something cool, create one. Create a group that's full of, real estate and mortgage and title professionals. And that, the kicker might be that to invite consumers into this group to answer their questions about the home buying or selling process and be the experts in that space. So there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage groups.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. And I actually, as I'm thinking, I should have added the LinkedIn logo to this slide too. LinkedIn groups are powerful. They are super underutilized. I meet with people all over the country regularly talking about creating, especially on the real estate brokerage side of things, talking about creating real estate neighborhood specific groups in some of the major metros. They don't exist. They create them now. You become kind of the gatekeeper of the content and can control the conversation moving forward. And when anybody searches something related to, Coronado Hills real estate, Texas, they're going to find your group. And so stay engaged in the group. Don't be spammy. Nobody likes the person that shows up and tries to sell, Ray-Ban sunglasses or something like that to the group. So keep the content as pertinent as possible, but engage. There's lots and lots of real estate groups, both on Facebook and some on LinkedIn. As a title business development officer or an escrow officer, I'm joining those groups and I'm engaging in the conversation. What does that do? It makes me top of mind with all of those realtors in that group. And I can guarantee you, there are some that you will find that you will be one of the first title reps to have thought about engaging in that group, commenting in a positive way. And it may be one of those things that you reach out and say, hey, I threw together a preliminary title report, just wanted to send it your way. Gorgeous new listing, that they post to a specific off-market group or something like that. So I think the opportunities are absolutely endless. And that's going to parlay into something that has been quite a bone of contention over the last 24 hours and really over the last several years, and that is Facebook lists. So one of the ways that I find the absolute best way to save time, social media is a rabbit hole. You start scrolling and all of a sudden you've been on there for an hour and now you're finding out the best way to poach eggs if you're anything like me. That said, Facebook lists is a way to segment a certain people into a group to where you only see their content, or you can post content that only that group sees. This is a great way to save time, potentially, to scroll through only those clients, those prospects, those former and past clients and customers, to only engage with them when you were on the platform. That said, the kind of caveat here is that Facebook knows they don't serve up ads in those areas, and they don't really control what you see in those areas. They want to be able to control what consumers see, what people engage with. And so they've made it more and more complicated to view that specific list. However, for today and today only, probably, we have a hack and a way around that.
But we figured out last night.
And we figured out last night and added it to the presentation about 16 minutes ago. So it's going to look really good, I promise you. But lists with anything else, be very intentional. You may be using a CRM. Your social media in many ways can be your social CRM. So when you're creating a list of former customers, when you're creating a list of top listing agents, for example, be intentional with that. You can always add people, remove people. It's not set in stone. It gives you a quick and easy way to go through and engage with people. How do you engage? You like and you comment on their content, period. They're going to get a notification about it. It's going to start a conversation. They're going to become more familiar with you, with your face, with who you are. And that builds front of mind awareness when it comes to their next transaction. So the really cool thing about lists to me is, instead of scrolling for 2 hours or 3 hours as people do, if you've ever looked at your, if you have an iPhone and you've looked at any of your time spent on social or something, it is horrifically depressing. I saw a Q&A come in. I don't know if you want to look at that real quick, Justin. But it can take 10 minutes instead of 3 if you're very intentional. And I want to walk through real quick, because everybody asks how to actually create one of these lists. So I want to walk through and show you exactly how to do it. So from your homepage on your desktop version of Facebook, the first step is you're going to go over to your the side menu there, and you're going to click on Friends. Okay. Once you click on Friends, all you're going to do is come down here to Custom Lists. You're going to click on Custom Lists, and the third step is you're going to create a new list, and all your lists will be housed here. You're going to create a list, you're going to name it, confirm it, and then you can add whoever you want to that list. Now, like we said, it is very easy to post to that list. You can do it from mobile, you can do it from your desktop. All you do, and I think probably here, when you go to start to post something, whether it's on your mobile app or on desktop, once you click this button here, there's the privacy globe. Do you want everybody to see it? Do you want just your friends, acquaintances? The list that you have created of specific people will be right there, and you can post directly to that list. However, seeing the news feed of the people within your list has become more complicated. Facebook recognizes this is a powerful tool. It's easy to leverage. It's free. They probably don't like that. And I say this as we're streaming on Facebook, so hopefully the Facebook powers that be aren't listening. but sometimes Facebook doesn't cooperate. So here is a quick, easy little hack to be able to see that feed today. So it's working today. This may not work a month from now, but we will always figure something out. And if any of this stuff, not only is this all going to be recorded, but you have access to Sarah, you have access to Brian, you have access to me through your rep. Reach out. We can always do one-on-ones to talk about this stuff. But the quick and easy way, this is my new slide as of 16 minutes ago or whatever. The quick and easy way to see that feed is to type this into your desktop browser. This M gives you the mobile version of the Facebook website. Then you're going to click over here on the top right. You'll see this little hamburger. That will take you to the menu of your friends, a bunch of things on the left-hand side, but right under, I made this testing list just for this seminar. And you're just going to click on that list and you'll be able to see the feed for now. Again, this literally changed in the last probably 72 hours or so. It'll probably change again in the next 72 hours, and it'll probably change again a week after that. That said, having access through your reps to your MTDs, we're always going to try and stay up to date on this stuff, but this tool is powerful enough and important enough that I think it's important to find a way how to use it until they basically take it away. But for now, those are the steps to be able to view the feed of the list that you create. It's easy to do. It only takes a few minutes, and it gives you the power to be able to engage with the specific people, your top targets, your top influencers that you're looking to build a client relationship with in a way that doesn't waste a ton of time. So I think it's super important. Again, there's going to be questions about that for sure. If you have one, you are not alone, but reach out to your rep and have them connect with us, and we will absolutely get them answered.
Hey, Sam, let's spend 2 more minutes on this topic, because out of everything that we're going to talk about today, this is the #1 way to get deals out of your network. And I don't want people to brush over this, because out of all the years that I've been teaching sales and escrow, how to do this specific thing, this has been the #1 way that they've pulled deals out of their network. And so I'll give you an example. I was up in Northern Washington in our directs, and I was teaching some of these strategies to an escrow officer up there. She had been chasing a broker up in Northern Washington for 2 years, Sam, 2 years without a response from this guy. After the class where we talked about how to go through lists and comment and share on other people's content, she went into Instagram and direct messaged this broker on something that he had just posted. He responded to that direct message within 10 minutes. Within the next 5, she had a meeting with him. And the next day after that meeting, she had gotten his business. It took her 2 years to get to that place and about 15 minutes to get to a meeting after she did one of these strategies. And so sometimes it's about getting to clients where they are. The guy just didn't like to respond to text messages, voicemails, and emails. That just wasn't his jam. But because she engaged with him in Instagram, which happened to be like where he played, he actually took notice and responded. Another example out of our Portland market, our sales manager there, after the class where we talked about lists, and he went out and he spent about 10 minutes a day just filtering through to his clients through the lists. And he just started making little comments on all of those people's posts. Just, hey, it sounds awesome, or good job, or whatever the thing was. Well, it happened that one day a client who was across the river in Vancouver had posted a question that was related to the title industry. The sales manager was the one that answered that question. And because he took the time to answer that question, he got that transaction. So that never would have happened if that sales manager hadn't taken the 10 minutes out of his day to just go out and be social. And so regardless of whether, lists continue to work or you go through this hack that you just showed, the important thing to remember, guys, is that if you take a couple of minutes out of your day, find those people that are important to your business, whether they're prospects, whether they're current clients, whether they're, non-directing clients. Show a little interest in what they're doing. they're going to show interest back. And it's been proven time and time again. And so again, out of everything that we talk about today, this is the number one thing to pull business out of social media, is just go out and be proactive in commenting, liking, and sharing your clients' information or content.
Absolutely. You put it so well. When people ask about content specifically and what to post, we created a little hack for that too. And so content is king. We're talking about engaging, so liking and commenting on other people's content. But obviously, from time to time, you're going to want to create your own content too, so that those people can be engaging with you. But at the end of the day, it's hard. It takes time. It takes ideas. It takes thought. And so we made a little bit of an easy button for that we're going to share with you today. And there's going to be multiple things today that I'm going to be emailing out to each and every one of you as a kind of takeaway. And this is one of those things, so don't feel the need. You're welcome to screen grab it if you want, but I'm going to be sending this out to each and every one of you. And what I will say to kind of introduce this is, prior to joining West, a WFG company, I saw around the beginning of the pandemic, sometime around then, if I'm wrong, I may be a little off, but sometime around there, everyone I knew at WFG posting often, engaging things that were interesting. It stood out to me. And it wasn't until later that I realized that this was kind of the guidepost for what was happening in that moment. And as a client and a customer, as a former independent title agent here in Texas, I saw it. I recognized that something was going on. I saw more and more people from WFG engaging with their clients and customers. So Stutz, do you want to talk through this 30-day challenge a little bit?
Yeah, so I'll give you some context on it. So the timing of this was March of 2020. And so if you think back to March of 2020, that was a scary time. We didn't know if we still had jobs. We didn't know if we were if we were essential employees or what the heck was going on, right? So all of a sudden we were all working from home. You couldn't make sales calls anymore, traditional sales calls. And so we were in this place of like, what the heck do we do to make sure that we are still staying active from a sales perspective, getting people out on social to engage in conversations, check on people, whatever those things were, right? The hurdle that we always have, and I'm sure many of you listening have, is what do I say, right? If you're not a social media person and you don't generally engage in this kind of stuff, it's really hard and in some ways terrifying to a lot of people to just go put stuff out there because they don't know what people are going to say or think or whatever. So that's kind of the situation. And so my thought was, well, why don't we put together an easy button and make it a contest? So we actually ran this through our entire organization. So the directs, the agency, lender services, everybody. And the idea was that every day you come in and pick something from one of these 4 categories. So we created the categories of an action item, a get to know me, a client connection, and a moment, a WFG moment. And so we just created these little content ideas to make it easy for people to come in here, pick something that was appealing to them, and then just go share it. And Sam, the results were nothing short of amazing. I mean, we had more people, as you experienced, you saw it. We had more people around the company taking the time to engage. We had, I probably got 2 or 3 emails a day from sales reps that were sharing successes of, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this person. I posted this thing. We reconnected. It's so awesome. Or, hey, I just got a refinance from this lender because we had just lost connection, and because of my post, they responded, all that stuff, right? So there's no magic bullet here. It's just that we encourage people to go on and do the work, and we took the mystery and magic out of it by creating this short and easy list. So whether you use what we created here or create your own, the point is that you make it really easy. We also made it visible in that we shared our posts. So every day I would pick something from this list and I would post it on Facebook or Instagram, and then I would screen capture it and I would email it out to the entire company to say, hey, here's what I did. And there was a bunch of people who stole my stuff and they posted it themselves. And I thought that was great. I mean, you know what R&D stands for, right?
Go.
Rip off and duplicate.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was completely okay with that because at least they were taking a chance and doing the work. And simply by doing this for 30 days straight, the results were amazing. And we got our sales reps re-engaged in the process, even though everything was crumbling around us while we were trying to get people working from home and all this stuff. Sadly, I wish that we would have continued doing this. Of course, everything got crazy busy and we moved on to other things. But the takeaway for me was if you can provide an easy way for people to get over the hurdle of what do I say, they'll do it. And the results speak for themselves. I mean, we had a complete turnaround in the way that the attitude of our salespeople towards doing this stuff on social media.
Yeah, providing an easy button for your staff to be able to do things that don't take a ton of time changes everything. If I just ask people to go out and post on social more often, what do I post? When do I post? How do I post? What should it be about? I don't want to deal with it. And all of a sudden, after a day, I'm done. But had I still been with our independent agency when you all shared this with me, I absolutely would have started some kind of contest within our offices and had people engaged. And the proof is in the pudding. When you see that order count spike, when you see more refis coming in from lenders that maybe you haven't seen around in a while, you know that it's working. So I love that you guys did this. And again, this is one of the things that will be a takeaway from today. So by the end of today, if not tomorrow, you will have this in your inbox, everybody who's here and that registered.
Well, I want to point something out, Sam, if you go back one, sorry. But I want to point out something. If you look at the action items, this is a lot of the stuff that you and I have been talking about today. And so I want you guys to understand that the things that we talk about in these webinars are things that we've actually done. We've vetted the strategy to make sure they work before we go out and talk to you guys about it. And so if you look at those action items, it's update your Facebook profile so that, I can't tell you how many times I see, Facebook profiles that have people working for places, from 10 years ago and things like that, right? Create a friends list, which we just talked about. Join a Facebook group, which we just talked about. Connect and engage with somebody you'd like to recruit to your organization. Connect to 3 or more accounts for real estate content and share their posts. I mean, these are the strategies that we've been employing in our directs on the West Coast for a very long time. And so we know that it works. So just R&D this, rip off and duplicate, use it for your own organization because it works.
Absolutely. And that's one of my favorite things about working with the WFG team is anything that they do in their directs that works. You don't have to be the guinea pig. Once they know it works, they'll share it, take it, duplicate it, redo it, throw your logo on it. I love the shareability of a lot of that stuff. So that kind of parlays us into the second piece. And I know it's already 11:30, so we may be just a couple minutes over. And if you have to leave, we get it. You will absolutely have a recording in your inbox soon. 2019 pre-pandemic, these are words that were very present in reviews that WFG was getting in directs, right? So these were the feelings that people were having in relationship to their real estate transaction prior to the pandemic. It was about process. It was about checklists and timing, closing. It was very transactional. They were talking about systems and again, those processes. And then the pandemic happened. And the mood of everybody changed. It became one of those things that we're all in this together. And it even took a little while before it got a little political. There was a time where we were all in it together. And the transactions of 2020 into 2021, these are the key words from most people's reviews. You see a shift from a transaction, right? You see the shift from something having to do with just getting the job done, getting to the finish line, to how people were feeling. How did you make them feel? It turned from a process to an experience. So in 2020 and 2021, the words were appreciative, team, comfortable. You were understanding. It's about my home. Things were clear. People were helpful. The conversation totally shifted from a system to a feeling and an experience. So the entire mood of transactions shifted during that time, right?
It absolutely did. And in fact, when we were looking at this a couple of weeks back, it was really shocking to me to see the difference in the way that people described their transaction from 2019 to the next year. And what it really got me thinking about was this idea of the customer experience. And look, like let's not get it twisted, right? We got to get the transaction done. I mean, if we can't do that in a way that's easy and gets the keys to their house, like we shouldn't be doing the business that we're in. But it's how we make people feel that makes the biggest impact. And so, if you're looking to build a desk or retain more customers or, sell all of those things, it becomes less about the transaction because we just get the transaction completed as a part of doing business. It becomes less about the transactional piece and more about the experiential piece and how we make people feel. And at the end of the day, Sam, like if a consumer is happy at the end of the transaction, who does that reflect on? It reflects on the real estate agent, right? We're just a neutral third party in the transaction. Most of the time they forget about who we are anyway. But if a consumer has a great experience, that reflects on your client, the realtor and the lender. And that's good. That's a good thing for us. And so it, like your slide says here, creating moments that matter becomes the game. And especially when you're talking about the non-directing side of the business, these are people who didn't choose us, right? If they had a choice, they would have chosen somebody else. And so how do we make them feel different about the experience so that given a choice next time, maybe they do choose us? And so that's a little bit about making those little things big. It's the idea of creating those little moments that matter, those little moments of like, wow, that was interesting, or wow, that was different. They get people to look up. And I'll give you an example. I know we're over time a little bit, but when I moved, the last time I moved, I found as I was driving to the office, I would stop by a Starbucks to grab a drink in the morning. And I did that every single morning, right? And Starbucks is great and you get the same thing every time and the experience is fine and there's nothing wrong with it. But in one particular moment or morning, I had to take a different route to work because I had a meeting that was offsite. And so I stopped at this, little coffee shop that was on the way to this meeting. And I had a different experience. It was a little thing. And the thing was that when I pulled up to give him my money and they give me my coffee, he handed me the cup of coffee like it was this like prized possession. I don't know, it was so weird, but he had like this really unique way of just handing me my drink. And it stopped me in that moment. I was stopping thinking about whatever it was that was on my mind. And I just thought, wow, that was really cool. And you know what? I actually started going to that coffee shop, although it was a little bit out of my way. It just made me feel better about the interaction, right? I was a little bit better about handing over my money for that same cup of coffee because they made me feel different about it. And so the point here is that it doesn't need to be mind-blowing, right? There's nothing you need to do needs to be mind-blowing, but it's these little moments throughout the transaction where we can create some differentiation between the people that they normally would choose and you to get them to say, wow, that was really interesting. And maybe I will send you my next deal.
Yeah, that's so perfect by making the little things big. A coffee shop, how many little things do they have to make big? This is a very quick interaction here. And so that one stood out to you. In a real estate transaction, as a title company, how many things do I have that I could make something from something very small? And one thing too, I can relate to the people that are like, man, we're just so busy. I mean, I'm closing 5 deals, 50 deals a day, right? We're closing 50 deals a day. The person in each and one of those closings on the buying and selling side, which then gets reflected to the real estate agent, this could be a once in a 5 or 10 year thing. This could be a once in a lifetime thing. This is one of the biggest moments in their life, statistically speaking, in America, and our friends in Canada too. But so at the end of the day, we forget sometimes, I think, right? We forget that because we closed 20 deals that Friday afternoon, we forget that each one of those 20 was an opportunity to absolutely build a lifelong relationship with somebody by making those little things big. So we're going to break that into kind of two areas. The first is going to be directing customers. So these are the people that actually brought you that deal. And in my opinion, and my word for 2021 has been gratitude. I think gratitude is everything. So when was the last time you sat down and either shot a quick video or dropped a thank you handwritten note? I know I'm an MTD, marketing and tech, but I still love the handwritten note in the mail to say, you know what, thank you so much for the opportunity to continue to serve you as your title agent of choice. It's probably been a little while. If you're doing it regularly, kudos to you, Air 5, you're awesome. But at the end of the day, just that little thank you note stands out from the crowd. A couple things here that are going to be the next two takeaways for everybody today. I absolutely love the WFG Connect form. You're going to get a copy of it. You could repurpose it for your company. And Stutz, will you tell me just a little bit about that form, what it does?
Yeah, so the WFG Connect form we've had for quite a number of years, and it's all based on the idea that we call 5 hooks. And you guys probably, I've heard about this in the past. But the idea is that if you have a customer who's only connected to one person in the organization, right, one hook, and something goes sideways in a transaction, it becomes really easy for that customer to go somewhere else, right? One relationship, they screwed it up, I'm out of here. So the idea of 5 hooks is that the more people you can connect your client to in an organization and build relationships with, the more likely they are to stick around, even if something were to go wrong. So as an example, if a client has a relationship with the sales rep, a sales manager, the escrow officer, a title officer, and customer service person, right? 5 people. And the escrow officer, you know what, they had a bad transaction, it happens, sorry. There's still 4 other people that client is connected to that can either help address the problem, take them out to lunch, pat them on the back, whatever those things are. And so the likelihood that client leaves the organization over one bad mistake is greatly diminished. And so how we put that into practice is the WFG Connect form. And so really what it is that a sales rep, an escrow officer, whoever in the organization can fill this form out and send it off to whoever they want to make a personal call or interaction, email, whatever it is, to their client, and we'll do it. So if I get a Connect form from a sales rep, I'll make a phone call to that client and just say, hey, so-and-so said that you're sending your first transaction. We really appreciate it. Is there anything I can do to help, make this experience better for you? All of that stuff. So it's about connecting clients to multiple people in the organization in an effort to have more relationships.
Yeah, and as a realtor in practice, what this may look like is getting a handwritten note from the local president of your company, or a VP, or someone that maybe they don't even know yet, saying we appreciate the opportunity to be of service. And it really stands out. And don't forget too that something like this is great in recruiting. And I have a kind of a personal testament to that. When I was being recruited to this position, I got a phone call from Pat Stone, the founder of WFG. At the time, it blew me away. It was awesome. I missed it. And so I still have the voicemail. But at the end of the day, there was probably a WFG Connect form that was used there that kind of systematized it. But man, did it make me feel like there were more people there that knew who I was and were excited to be able to work with me. And it was a great feeling. And it's part of the reason why I'm here amongst many others today. So this is a recruiting tool also. The next thing, which is your third takeaway, is the WFG Promise. A lot of real estate companies use something similar to this when it comes to their listing presentations or buyer rep presentations, where they basically set out their checklist of their service goals. These are the services I am going to strive to provide you as my client or customer. So we can absolutely do something similar in the title space, but not a lot of people do. One of the things that I think is most important about this is we often in this business, we have so many transactions going on. It's all about volume. We're super busy. And so people conform to how we communicate. If we're going to send things via text or through app notification or through email or through snail mail or courier pigeon, whatever we're going to do, that's what you're going to do. One of the really cool things I think about this form is it's a little bit more about how do I fit into your world? How do I make sure that you have a great experience? There's a couple reasons why I think this is really cool. And for me, the number one is the last time a real estate agent or broker was asked that was probably never. They were told how they were going to be communicated with. So simply by asking how somebody's communication preferences and what I can do to best fit into your world in this transaction, you're totally flipping the conversation and changing the experience. So I'm gonna keep going just to try and make sure that we stay somewhat on time. But again, those are two takeaways that we're going to share with you. And again, something that's another totally flipping the coin is oftentimes we ask our real estate agents or brokers or buyers and sellers, we ask them how their experience was after the experience. We don't often take the time to get feedback midway through the transaction. That sounds totally different. It feels totally different as a real estate agent. So we often ask how we did. We don't ask how we're doing. So take the time in the midst of the transaction to ask if how things are going in their mind, if there's anything they would like to see done differently before the transaction is over. You still have a chance to change what maybe could end up being a negative experience into a positive experience simply by shifting that timeline from after the transaction to during the transaction. And again, this is a huge point of differentiation because not only do we in the title business expect for them to conform to the way we run a transaction, but we also definitely don't ask how things are going in the midst of it. We usually wait till afterwards. So I love that thought. I love that idea. And that's going to kind of shift us into, we've covered directing customers, the people that already like and know us and are sending us business. And now I want to talk a little bit about non-directing customers. And this is, Stutz is an absolute expert at this for sure.
Well, on the non-directing side, like I already talked about, Sam, it's these people don't choose us, right? They choose somebody else if given the choice. And so we have this 45 day window to show why we're a better choice on the next go around. And so these little moments that matter become very, very important. So one of the ways that you can think through this is sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and write down all of the moments during a transaction where you have interaction with the client or the non-directing client. So what happens when a contract is sent over? What's that process look like? What happens when the title commitment is completed and goes out to the customer? What happens when you are wrestling with the lender to get documents? What happens when you have to schedule signings? What happens when the closing occurs and then the keys get delivered? So there's these points throughout the life cycle of a transaction where there's the typical thing that happens, right? Which is what happens in every competitor in your area, versus what are the ways that we can do it a little bit differently? Your midpoint feedback is a great example of that, because 9 times out of 10, companies send a survey after the transaction is closed, right? How did we do? By simply sending it upstream a little bit, how are we doing? It affects a lot of things. Number one, it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, yeah, I do have this problem. Let's address it right now. The other part is that you're priming them for the end of the transaction where you get to say, how did we do? And so you actually get better reviews at the end by asking it upstream a little bit. It's simple things like, instead of sending an email, why don't you send a video, right? You can use something like Loom as an example. You can have your title commitment on a screen capture while you're doing a little video and go through the title commitment. Hey, everything looks awesome. Hey, something on the Schedule B that I think you might want to be aware of is here. Let me know if you have any questions. It takes 5 minutes to record it. It's different. It feels different. It's a moment of like, oh, that's cool. I really dig that. It puts some differentiation between you and the person that, again, they were choosing if they had the choice, right?
If doing something like that becomes, it seems a little cumbersome to try and do that often, unless it's somebody that you're really trying to wow and stand out from the crowd. Something I did, and we actually did this, and the idea came from a Spark conference with you all, by the way, but this is still as an agent. I got to thinking about, so on Amazon, if I order, some coffee pods, I'm really well informed. I know when it's left the shipping facility, when it's going to arrive, the time it's going to get there. If there's an issue with it, I know everything about it. The number one complaint from consumers, which gets told to their realtors and us as the title company, is lack of communication. So if Amazon sends me a confirmation email, why wouldn't I, as a title company, send a confirmation email? So we started sending confirmation emails. Congratulations on your sale or purchase. Attaches the commitment. We're excited to work with you. And oh, by the way, click here to meet your closer. And it would be our closer. And these were generic. It wasn't specified to that individual transaction, but it was somebody on video. It was a face. It was a voice. It was a person. And so they felt like they knew that person through the process. And it was as simple as, congratulations on your sale or purchase. Thank you so much for choosing our title company. My name is Sam Trimble. I'm going to be working with you. Here's a little bit about what you can expect. And by the way, I look forward to meeting you at the closing table. Thanks again. It was as simple as that. It was a 30-second video. It totally changed the feeling that buyer or seller got, which made their realtor happy, which made us happy. And so it doesn't have to be something that's super overwhelming. And trust me, it works. And frankly, too, one other thing I would say is it's easy for people to get upset or maybe have some tension in a transaction when everything's through email. I don't know who this person is. It made it go a lot more smoothly. The problems were not as big of problems when that person had seen my face. They had heard my voice. They knew who I was as a person. I wasn't just black words on a white screen. And so it changed that process too.
Yeah, so in addition to the things you have here on the screen, Sam, I made a call to one of our top escrow officers in our Northern Washington market to interview her a little bit about this topic. And what I asked her is, I said, look, what are the most successful strategies that you teach escrow officers when they get recruited over to WFG? Like, how are you helping them build their business? And here were some of the top takeaways that she had that I think would be really interesting for the group to hear. Number one, which sounds really obvious, is just be available. And she said the amount of customer complaints from competitors is that their escrow officers simply don't pick up the phone. They're never available. And we get it. Everybody's busy, right? You're busy doing your job, which is closing transactions. But from the customer standpoint, if they have a need or a problem, they just want somebody to solve it, right? So whether it's an assistant on your team or whatever that process looks like, be available. Number two was always call the non-directing client. And so, that seems, again, like a simple, like, no duh, right? But the amount of times that we don't pick up the phone and call that non-directing client, because again, they weren't the ones that sent us that transaction. And so they're kind of the afterthought in a lot of cases. But being proactive to say, hey, look, I know you didn't choose us. I'm glad you didn't counter us. I hope this transaction goes really well. How would you best like me to communicate with you? It's those types of questionings that gets the NDC to say, like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. It's one of those little moments. One of the things that she does is she issues all of her escrow officers a company paid phone. And the idea is that the escrow officer, especially younger escrow officers that are trying to build a desk, the idea is that they're available all the time. And I know that there's going to be some on this call that are like, nope, I don't want to do that. But she said, one of the things that she told me was, look, at the end of the day, you might get one or two phone calls late at night, but most of the time you're not going to get those phone calls. But the impression in the customer's mind is that, oh, wow, she's available anytime I need to call her, which I thought was very cool. The last thing I'll share with you from her was every Thursday or Friday, they send out a good news email. When I was in escrow, believe it or not, I used to be in escrow. I used to use a program called SlideDial. I don't know if you've heard of that, right?
Yeah.
And so what SlideDial does, for anybody who's interested, is it lets you go directly to voicemail. So you don't have to have an actual phone conversation. You can just drop voicemail. But the point was that every Thursday or Friday, the escrow officer reaches out to all of the clients that there's an open transaction and just says, hey, everything looks good. We got it. Is there anything you need going into the weekend? And leaves it at that. So it's one of those ways of just giving some peace of mind to the client going into the weekend, offering to help if there's anything, like if they have a listing appointment coming up and they need, a property profile created or something like that before they going into the weekend. It's been that one little special touch that she says makes a big impact for their operation. So I know I won't finish with the rest of the list, but those were the top ones that I thought were very interesting.
I was a huge proponent of that. No one at my former company had done that, and we went as far as, we had a pretty large social media following, and we went as far as leading into holiday weekends, there'd be a social post that says, even though our doors may be closed, we're always available. And I put my you could either do like info at our company, and I would get it on weekends off, and I put my cell phone number. And I think 2 or 3 times in like 5 years did someone actually text or call me on like a holiday weekend, for example. And all I did was simply respond, and it was amazing the response I got. And they were like, you guys are always available, and it changed everything. And I love a stat here that Chris put: the non-directing call and follow-up after the closing will get you 33% of those agents on future transactions. And I absolutely believe that. So again, you'll have this whole presentation and the video. The last couple of things I wanted to touch on to make sure that you do towards the end of a transaction with the non-directing customer, or the NDC. Stutz loves acronyms. Most of them I don't understand.
Sure. I don't have time to say the full word.
Ain't nobody got time for that. So don't forget the post-close note. When the transaction is over, it's not over for us yet. Realtors, if they're anything like the realtors in Texas, they love free stuff. And so anytime, if it fits your regulatory environment and you're allowed to do that, any type of swag pack, pins, whatever it might be of your company, they always appreciate it. Pick up the phone. We have become so inundated with the thought of texting or emailing. It's rare to get a call. Slide dial, perfect example of a way to not get roped into, not that I don't want to talk to you for 20 minutes, but I'd rather maybe just leave a voicemail. And come to think of it, maybe when Pat called me, I wonder if he used slide dial because I didn't get the call.
He probably slide dialed you.
Oh, dude. So, and don't forget that last thing, add these people to your Facebook list that we just talked about creating. Our fourth and final takeaway today, thanks so much to Wendy in direct operations on the West Coast, is the VIP Club. She has created a document that basically takes your process from the very first time you get a yes and you get a contract from a new client or customer through the 5th order. It gives you a step-by-step way to follow up and engage in each and one of those. And Tom Kane, absolutely, the slide decks will be available. Each and every one of those points of interaction to get you to that 5th. Why the 5th? Because statistically speaking, if you get to that 5th transaction, you have now built a firm relationship with that client or customer. So that's something that we're going to include as well. Did you want to touch on that quickly?
Well, all I would say there, Sam, is I would go back to what I said earlier, which is writing down each point of the process. This VIP club was just that. What we did was we looked at each part of the process and thought, well, what is it that we could do that would be a little bit different? So I would say that while everything may not translate to your business with this VIP club document that Sam's going to share, what I would do is I would take it as a point of reference of like, okay, well, these are the highlights of the transaction, and what are the things that we can do to stand out a little bit, and create your own VIP club. And it's a fantastic way to, get people feeling different about you and your company and have a little bit more stickiness, right? I mean, it's really easy for people to send transactions to whoever did something for them nice lately. Something like the VIP club has a lot of stickiness attached to it. And it's really done wonders for them over in Northern Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again to Wendy for sharing that with us. The last and final part of this, that for anyone who's met with me anywhere around the country, I'm like super bullish on reviews right now. I feel like it's all I talk about, but I think it's a huge opportunity right now because of sheer volume that's going on. 76% of consumers that are asked to leave a review will do it. I have entire classes about that and using QR codes and all kinds of things. But I think the last step of this process is to ask for that review. Get that review. You can use that review as evergreen content. If it's a top producer in your area, turn that into a social post, tag that person. Other people that want to become a top producer tend to follow what top producers do. So if you have a top producer who's given a testimony about your business, make sure to share that to social. And you can share it more than once. Wait 6 or 8 months and share it again, and people will follow. And I know there's a lot of programs that can help with that. We've used and talked about Bird Eye in the past, Get 5 Stars, which became Gather Up, Podium. There's a bunch of different ones, but you've had great experiences with Gather Up as a platform to gather reviews and kind of segment them. So you want to touch on this briefly as one of our last points?
Yeah, so we went a little bit further with the review process in that we connected Gather Up to our production system, which is Resware. And so our surveys go out automatically based on a trigger event in Resware. So that's kind of like where you want to be if your organization can support something like that. If your organization cannot support something like that, it doesn't mean you can't do it, right? There are simple ways to gather reviews after a transaction. Google My Business is a great and easy way to do it. You just go to set up your Google My Business profile, which Sam can help you do. You can grab a URL from that profile that goes directly to the reviews, and then create a simple script that you send out as kind of a post-close strategy, and direct people right to the Google page to leave a review. You can do the same thing on Facebook. You can do the same thing on Yelp. Pro tip on making this easy. One of the things that our escrow officers do is they write their script and create it as a signature line in Outlook. So if you go into Outlook and you can create multiple signature lines. So create one as a little script where you have everything already pre-written out with the link to where you want them to be sent. And then all you have to do is when you pull up a new email, go into Outlook and select that as your signature line, and it's already done. So you don't have to rewrite everything every single time. It becomes a process. So best case scenario, you use something like Gather Up where you can easily connect it to production and trigger them automatically. If you need to do it the other way, using things like scripts, Google My Business, Facebook, really, really simple ways of collecting reviews. Now, what do you do after you get a review, Sam? You got to signal it, right? You got to signal it. And so one of the ways that you can do this as an escrow officer is when you receive a good review. This is especially effective on the non-directing side. If you receive a great review from the non-directing client's customer, right? Take that review, send an email to that customer, copy the real estate agent and say, hey, I am so glad you had a great experience, hoping to help you again in the future, whatever. That email goes to the consumer. You're CCing the real estate agent because you want that NDC to know their client had a great experience. That is not happening. I would venture to say that most title companies are not going that far. So the experience, again, creating those moments of wow, they're not getting that from their current provider. So that is, one of the most effective ways to leverage those reviews as you get them.
Yeah, and back to my 4 pillars of response, comment on it. It doesn't have to be, if you don't control the company social media or the company Google, it doesn't have to be you. You can comment on it as yourself, as a salesperson, as an escrow officer. Handwritten thank you notes for them taking the time. Your online reviews are your future business currency. They're important and they're valuable. So taking the time to drop a handwritten note, give them a call, comment on it, do something to thank them and show some gratitude for them leaving that review. Gratitude makes all the difference. And these things that we talked about, like anything else that I talk about or Sarah talks about or Brian or Justin Tucker, if you do the work, the results will absolutely follow. We are all about a rising tide raises all ships. We are more than willing to share anything and everything that happens in the direct offices that is successful. You have at your disposal Sarah Hash, Brian Nacklis, and myself. I'm Sam Trimble. We are here to help, and reach out to your rep if you'd like to meet. I would love to connect with any of you who are here today. There were a bunch of you that I don't know your names, so I'd love to connect if I don't know you already. If you scan this quick QR code, it'll pull up all of my contact info and we can connect that way. And El Jefe, I'm from El Paso, Texas, so that means my boss, Justin Stutz. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I know you are a busy man. You've been doing this stuff for a long time. You're a big part of the reason why I'm here, so I'm thankful that you were able to spend some time with us.
It was a lot of fun, man. I can't believe it's taken us this long to get on a webinar together. But look, at the end of the day, I hope we shared a couple of things that were insightful for anybody listening. And Sam is right. Just do the work. So pick one or two of the things that we shared today, put them into practice, and then the final part is let us know how they did. Were we right? Were we wrong? Did you have a new strategy that you think we should know about? That kind of stuff is invaluable information for us as well. So if you're not watching this already in the Title Nerds group, join us there. Go to Title Nerds, sign up to be a part of that group, and let's keep the conversation going because it's a good one.
Absolutely. There were a lot of things today, but what I can guarantee, if you take one or two things from this and put this into action, you will see a difference. You will grow your business, and that's the point. So thanks everybody for hanging out. Sorry we went a little over. Everyone here, you'll get a copy of this recording, you'll get the slide deck, and you'll get all 4 takeaways. We appreciate you. We appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and everybody have a great rest of your day. It's almost the weekend.
Yeehaw.
Thanks,
everybody. All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.